From the earliest days of the railway, it was a pioneer. A beautiful and majestic, yet powerful design. This is 563, a London and South Western Railway T3 class that was built in 1893. It is one of the finest examples of express passenger locomotives from the Victorian era, with an incredibly rich history and a remarkable survival story. Our mission is to bring 563 back to life in 2023. If we succeed, this will be the first time the T3 has been seen in steam for 75 years. And to get there, the engine is currently undergoing an extensive overhaul like it's never had before. My name's Nathan and I'm the chair of the 563 Locomotive Group. I'll be looking at the T3's past and the present to understand what this project means for the Swanage Railway and its future. I've come back to the flour mill to see the very latest progress with the engine. A lot has happened to the boiler, and since then the rest of the engine has taken shape as well. So I'm very excited to show you just how much we've done, as we've even started to apply some of the finishing touches. As you can see, the major components have been completed and put back together to bring back the T3's distinctive characteristics. Last year in 2022, we re-wheeled the engine, and this allowed the connecting rods, column rods and pistons to be reconnected with the rest of the valve gear. At the end of the year, the boiler was successfully test fitted into the frames for the first time. Once it was taken back out again, this allowed the tubes to be installed, the angle ring and then the smoke box could be riveted on the front, and the boiler fittings attached to the back head, ready for its hydraulic test. The purpose of the hydraulic test is to check the integrity of the boiler, including its component parts and any joints. By simply pumping it with water, should there be any defects in the structure of the boiler itself, it will simply spring a leak. In April, the boiler inspector witnessed the hydraulic test and signed off the flour mill's excellent work. 563's boiler ticket had begun, and the out-of-frame steam test soon followed. Once the team here at the flour mill were happy with the boiler, they placed the assembly back into the frames, where it was wrapped in insulation and the cladding sheets refitted. This also allowed the chimney and the cab roof to be installed, making the whole engine ready for painting. To find out more about this process, I'm going to speak with our sign writer, Phil Anderson, and the details he's been applying. Hi Phil, I think it goes without saying, but the details you've been adding to 563 are absolutely breathtaking. Could you tell us a little about this particular livery and what you've had to do?
The lining work follows every bit of brass, every boiler band, every line of the engine, and so it's quite common to have black and white lining anyway, but we've got brown added to this as well that follows everything, so it's more work, but it's worthwhile. It looks nice when it's done.
And we've asked you to hand paint our London and South Western Railway crests. Could you give us an appreciation just for the amount of work involved with those?
Yes, there's a colossal amount of work in them, very detailed. There's gold leaf work involved in there, lots of shading, different colours, and it's layer upon layer, so you can't do it all at once. It takes a little bit of time to do it, but quite complex, but again, looks great for being hand-painted, I think.
I think the extra effort will be worthwhile, and they already look great even though they're half finished. And you mentioned the gold leaf. Could you tell us how that works?
Gold leaf is an interesting process. It's basically what I do is I sign write the letters or the detail first with something called gold size, which is like a varnish glue type mix. I paint that on, and then the gold leaf sticks to that when the tack is at the correct point, and it's there forever basically.
The engine really does look stunning. We can't thank you enough for your efforts. I can't wait to show this off to the public because you really have to see the engine in person. Another bit of detailing Phil has already finished for us is in the cab, as even on the inside there's ornate decoration with wood graining that has been painted on by a process known as scumbling. Once the lining is finished and the paintwork has been protected by a couple coats of varnish, then we'll take the engine outside for a steam test. With the engine out in the open, it can really show off its true colours in the natural light, and it looks incredible. But it's time for yet another exciting milestone in the overhaul. The boiler inspector is due shortly, so we're about to get the engine ready and put its first fire in. I had the honour of lighting the first ceremonial paraffin-soaked rag, and this is a really symbolic and significant moment for the project. Once this had caught, we started to add more wood to really get a fire going before adding the coal. The firebox has a total grate area of 19¾ square feet, and with the fire burning nicely in there, it'll gradually heat the whole boiler up to its maximum working pressure of 175 pounds per square inch. After that, the safety valve should lift, and this will be one of the key tests which the inspector will want to witness, along with the general condition of the engine. This is the moment we've all been waiting for, and it's so exciting to see the T3 back in steam for the first time in 75 years. And when you put a fire back into the engine, they really come alive, and it's so great to see 563 come back to life. This is such a huge moment for our industry and preservation history. There's an air of tension and slightly nervous anticipation. The flour mill have done all they can, and hopefully the inspector will find everything is okay with the engine. Well, the good news is the injectors work well too. Now these combine steam and water, which is then fed through the delivery pipe into the clack valve, or a non-return valve, to help settle the boiler down. Now, I'm very pleased to report the engine has passed its steam test, so there's only one thing left to do. Well, that was simply brilliant. Really responsive, and you can feel the potential power. It's such a pity we haven't got a longer piece of track, but we'd have to wait a little bit longer before we can stretch its legs out on the railway. In the meantime, however, there is one more mystery which we can solve. We've seen a lot of the T3, but we haven't heard a lot of it yet. 563 has two huge whistles, but we've not been able to find any recordings of it to see what they sound like. They're bell whistles, but they're quite large in diameter, so what's the pitch going to be like? It's time to find out. Well, that was quite surprising and not like anything I've heard before. This second whistle is a brake whistle where back in the early days of the railway you didn't necessarily have to have a continuous brake throughout your train. On sounding this whistle, staff on board would apply their brakes manually, so it should have a slightly lower tone than the higher pitch before. And there you have it, the mystery becomes part of history. Everything you've seen here today has been made possible thanks to your support, and on behalf of the 563 Locomotive Group, we're extremely grateful for your donations and contributions. You made this happen, so cheers to that, and all we need now is one last final push to finish the overhaul. While the flour will continue to fettle with the engine, next our plan is to reunite it with the tender back in Swanage later this summer. After then, a period of commissioning, testing and crew training will begin, and will hopefully make 563 ready for service in the autumn. In our final episode, we'll be covering the T3's homecoming with great anticipation, and also find out what lies ahead for its future. If you'd like to find out more about the T3, visit www.563locomotivegroup.co.uk, where you can also make a donation towards the overhaul and help 563's return to steam in 2023.